this is the one thing that I want to do before I retire. I'm 57, that I know that I can knock out of the ballpark, that I could help take this community in a much different direction. Because where we've been, where we are, isn't really helping. We've had poverty here for so many years. In 1967, when I was born, poverty in San Antonio was 18%. Today, it's 18%. Nothing's changed. So I want to come in and I want to give of myself to this community so we can really make a difference for our people. All those jobs, 800 executive jobs, dawned. Why are they leaving? We have a situation in San Antonio where our local government is just anti-business. In San Antonio, we have 14,000 city employees that have to fill out a job application, that have to go through background checks, credit checks, reference checks, criminal checks, and yet none of our mayoral candidates have to do the same thing. They're not being asked to do that. So one thing that, you talk about what I bring to the table is, well, what I bring to the table is transparency, clarity in who I am as an individual. My resume is posted online. I'm happy to fill out a job application. You can see my non-existing criminal record. You can look at my credit report. You can look at whatever you want. It's transparency.
Blu Wolf Podcast.
This episode of the Blu Wolf Podcast is brought to you by Blue Line Professional Inspections. Check out blproinspections.com or call 210-771-8831 for all your inspection needs, including home inspection, wood-destroying insect inspection, sewer drain inspection, and on-site water treatment inspection. Blue Line is a first responder-owned business.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Blu Wolf Podcast. I'm Willie Cantu. Got my buddy over here, David Sapansky, retired SAPD captain, colleague, SAPD colleague, and of course did plenty. We're on a roll. Every time the last few podcasts that we've done here, I keep on saying we're getting better and better. This is a special podcast, things like that. And wow, to tell you the truth, it's just to me kind of blown up. And to us, it's pretty much blown up. Yeah, we're getting people that reach out to us that show an interest on coming on and speaking with us, and that's obviously awesome. We recently had former DA Nicola Hood on, but that was kind of put together pretty quick, very hasty because of a plea bargain that was offered to a convicted felon who was facing 8 felony charges, tried to murder 3 police officers the plea was offered by DA Gonzalez. It was taken. I want to say offered, it was taken. We thought it was very egregious. The guy only got 45 years. We had him on. We did that pretty quick. We thank our Public Alliance, our editors, for getting that out very quickly, get good feedback on it. One that we're very soon to drop, if not today, maybe tomorrow, is a podcast with retired DEA agent Javier Pena, one of the stars of the, he didn't actually act on there, but from the Narcos series, very much involved with the takedown of Pablo Escobar, one of the most prolific drug dealers, drug lords ever in history.
And mass murder.
Mass murder, yeah, well, we can't leave that out with that guy. So that one is pretty cool. We just got a little preview. I mean, this is awesome, especially the preview that we saw. Wow, I mean, yeah, it blew us out of our shoes pretty much. So I'm going to say we give shout out. So Nick, thank you very much. That was really awesome. Of course, we haven't seen the rest of it, right? So let me jump your ass about the rest.
So far, it's awesome. So far,
it's awesome. But we're starting out good right here. We've moved into the political realm with, and I've always said I hate politics, and I did when I was, young patrolman and being on SWAT for 17 years. We had to get into politics. It was. The things that we did were political, right? And then obviously you moved up in rank, and that's what you got. But that's okay. I know they're necessary. I won't say necessary evil just yet, but I know they're necessary. We've had one of our colleague, still San Antonio police officer, detective Pablo Arriaga on. He's running for City Council District 5. And we had Manny Pelaez, who was a councilman for District 8, as and a mayoral candidate. But today, we have, again, as things start exposing themselves and people start reaching out, we have a very special guest here, and if you don't mind me saying the special guest, Mr. Rolando Pablos here, who's a mayoral candidate. And like I told you before, I did some research starting last night. We spoke on the phone. What I really like is the fact that when we did talk, because you called me directly, I spoke to Frank initially, I guess one of your campaign advisors or whatever. And he's a good guy too, because we talked on the phone for a while. But then you called, and you're like a guy, like we could have sat down for a beer and just shot the shit for about anything.
I want to get in on the beer thing too.
Yeah, well, let me mention, yes, because we had done that a lot of times, right?
A few
times. We won't get in too far to that, but thank you so much for being here with us.
You, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the invitation. I'm honored, and congratulations on your show. I mean, I love the name, by the way.
Oh, Dave,
what a great name.
Thank you.
But it means a lot to me to be here and just have a nice conversation. Mine is the beer. I promise you I won't drink 14 drinks and get behind the wheel. So today we'll just drink water.
With Uber and Lyft, I mean, it'd be crazy to do that anymore. People still do it though. I mean, it's crazy. Even police officers, are getting into that. So tell me, and because we're going to get into the real meat of while you're here. Had you heard of us before we reached out, or you know what I mean? I'm just trying to get a feel of.
Yeah, I've heard of you guys before. I can't remember how we came together. It might have been Willie. I don't know.
Willie,
yeah. Maybe he's the one that brought us together. And then we had a nice conversation on the phone. And I think we see eye to eye on a lot of things. And look, I want to be able to have a conversation about my vision for San Antonio.
Yes.
I've been here for 40 years, and I love what you guys are doing. And I'm shining the light on certain things that need to be addressed, and it aligns with what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. You said you've been here for 40 years. So, born in Mexico.
Born in Mexico. When I was 9 years old, my parents brought us to El Paso. I understand we have.
I always rep El Paso.
There's so many El Pasoans. Yeah.
There's a big El Paso mafia here, by the way. Shout out to everybody who came to San Antonio and is doing great things in San Antonio. I came here as a 17-year-old with the dream of getting a degree from St. Mary's University.
Okay.
I'll tell you, I'd never been to San Antonio before the day my parents dropped me off at St. Mary's. I got recruited by St. Mary's University, and I'd only heard great things about the Spurs. I went to Cathedral High School in El Paso, and we used to have our state basketball championships here. So I'd always heard of the team coming here, and just great things. Henry Cisneros was doing great things. This was a place to celebrate our heritage, and so that piqued my interest. When a lot of my friends went to A&M or UT or Arizona State, I came here, and I loved it. I felt like St. Mary's. I went to parochial school all my life. I come from a devout Catholic family. My parents are strict Catholics. And so they put us in Catholic school our lives. The Cathedral was really the best fit for me as an all-boys. It's kind of like Central here. All-boys school.
Yeah, like Mirror Central.
Like exactly. Although over there, I think it was just the Christian Brothers. It's the only difference. I was on the swim team. I loved it. And I got recruited by St. Mary's to come out here. I studied biology and
it rests with a lot of city leaders right here in San Antonio and in El Paso. Cathedral is Central. People that graduate from it. There's a fraternity there, right? Yeah, there is. And a lot of them come out and become city and industry leaders. So, yeah, we want to recognize that for sure.
Well, thank you. Yeah, a lot of good friends have done great things. It's a college prep school. Everybody there has that in mind.
Did you go to school with Nico or Manny Pelaez? I know
out in El Paso.
No, I'm sorry.
It's law school.
Yeah.
No. So I was a little bit non-traditional. I took a non-traditional route. I studied biology, so I have a degree in biology for St. Mary's. Both of my parents are dentists.
Okay.
And in Mexico, you do what your father does.
Your teeth are so good.
Well, I don't know about that. Just got lucky. I didn't like dentistry, and so I wanted to be a businessman with a law degree. That was kind of my vision. So after St. Mary's, I went to UTSA and I got an MBA in international business. And I put myself through school, working at restaurants, washing dishes, waiting tables. Actually, that's how I met Laura. I was a waiter on St. Mary's Street back in '89.
Oh, wow.
They sat her in my section and we fell in love.
What year?
89. 1989.
That's when we got to the academy.
Well, I was waiting tables, washing dishes, line cooking. And so when Laura's a dentist, and I didn't become a dentist. I married one, so
check the box.
Check the box on that.
Parents were pleased.
My parents were pleased.
Okay,
yeah. So she was at the health science center here at the dental school.
Okay.
And she was top of her class, so she got into a residency program in Houston. So we moved to Houston after getting married. And while we were in Houston, I discovered that you can actually study hotel restaurant management. I didn't go. So I applied to the master's of hospitality program at the Hilton School, got accepted. So I came home one day and I told Laura, I was like, we'll go back to school. So I got a master's in hotel restaurant management. And then I knew that I was going to go to St. Mary's. So I didn't start St. Mary's until maybe I was 29. So I was a little late bloomer in that regard. But all the while, I was getting my degree. So I'm fortunate to have had a good education. I have 5 degrees. I kind of overdid it. That's what my parents brought us here, really, is so that we can get an education, have a better lifestyle than what we have.
Fun overachiever, huh?
Well, I'm just very inquisitive, and it's just a passion for me. And also, I wanted to be a good role model for my children. Generationally, we have to do better than our parents, so I want them to do better.
How many children do you have?
We have 4 kids. So we have 3 girls and a boy. Well, he's no longer a boy. He's a man. Christina is in Houston studying law. David's at UT. Christina went to UT, both for undergraduate and graduate business school. And then David right now is finishing up his degree. He's going to come back home. Okay. We just found out to work at Turner Construction. But then he's also going to do a master's online at Texas A&M for construction science. So he loves that whole construction side. And then Mia.
He's going to be a Longhorn and an Aggie.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's going to be very conflicted on his own.
Because you know how it is, right?
We're a Longhorn family. I have nothing against Aggies, other than that they're Aggies.
It's getting more common, though.
I think that's
There's
enough,
a lot of households, right? It's starting to be more common. One child goes to UT.
Yeah, there's some divided households.
Not too many people go to UT El Paso, but I did, right? So we got
right. I did UT. I did UTEP for a year, I believe. Getting my youngest grad. Because in biology, for business school, you have to get your prerequisites. So I went to UTEP for that.
I went to UT in Austin for.
Did you?
Yeah. And then that's kind of what got me into law enforcement. That had nothing to do with law enforcement over there. It's just like, that's not what I
campus police kept chasing them.
Well, there's a longer story on that, so.
Yeah, and then Mia's 18. Mia has Down syndrome. We're blessed she's just an angel. She's our angel. She goes to Reagan High School. She studies in the special ed program there. She wants to go to A&M because, I helped with a group. We helped start Aggie Achieve at Texas A&M, which is a program for kids with special needs. Oh. So someone with special needs can go to A&M. They can enjoy the entire college experience, go to class, live in a dorm, all those things. They actually get a ring. You know how important that is to Aggie.
Oh, definitely.
But they don't get a degree. They get a certificate.
Okay.
And let me tell you, John Sharp, Chancellor Sharp, gets all the credit. We lobbied him. We worked him. And he got probably so sick of us that he just accepted to have that program. But that program works.
That is so amazing to hear. Taking the time to lobby Austin to get that done for children with special needs, right?
So what's the name of the program?
Aggie Achieve.
Aggie Achieve.
Yeah, in South Texas or San Marcos is doing something similar. I think maybe even San Antonio, Texas A&M San Antonio is doing it. But here's what happens with children.
Showcase that.
That'd be great. Please. Oh, please. So I'm passionate about that. Kids, once they turn 18 or once they graduate high school, the system kind of forgets about them. And, there's a lot of support through that point. But after that, everybody's pretty much on their own. Cada quien por su santo after that, you know, and you just can't have that. And so we thought, well, maybe we can extend that another 4 years, hopefully get them some skills training so that they can get out into the world and work. And
We've seen that. We've seen them be very productive in that soil, you know. Then again, it just took people to be interested to push it further.
And we need advocates. I sit on the board of Special Olympics Texas. It's the largest Special Olympics in the world. And so we're promoting that as well. You know, Mia does Special Olympics bowling. They have their Olympiad. It's just such a wonderful environment. I also sat on the board of Morgan's Wonder.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
That's great things that he's doing over there, right?
what Gordon Hartman has done there is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really him giving of himself. He's a great businessman
For his daughter.
for his daughter, Morgan.
You're done. Yeah. I mean,
We have that in common. We're both blessed with daughters with special needs, so we're all in. I mean, we're all in. That's where I spend the majority of my time is advocating for people with disabilities.
That's really giving back, though, right? I mean, really, you've done a lot. You laid out a lot, but here you are, keep giving back. You know,
You
not
have
just for
to.
your own daughter, but for everybody. I told you my family.
That's right.
You know, so I have a nephew that's special needs, so I can absolutely relate. And it's amazing when people, anybody, you, Gordon Hartman, anyone else, gives so much of themselves to make it better for everyone.
It's a support network, and you know, at Morgan's, we're working with state government. We're in Austin, fighting for Morgan's for special needs here in San Antonio because Morgan's is not just for San Antonio; it's for the entirety of the South Texas.
Absolutely.
We have kids coming up from the Valley, from Laredo, Eagle Pass.
It's an experience. I've been there. Yeah, it's an experience.
And then now we have the multi-assistance center. What happens to families with children with special needs is their doctors are spread all over town. So what we've done is we brought all those services under one roof.
Absolutely.
So now it makes it easier. We have a 14 or 19 bay dental clinic. There's surgery that can be happening there. We even have a salon for hairstyling that Paul Mitchell, Paul Joya. In
Community First is there. U of H is there. Like University Health System.
University Health System. We brought in St. Mary's Law School. We have a clinic, and what happens is that once the kids turn 18, we just live this with Mia. They need special paper signed so that we can continue to represent them because now they're adults. I said so. But look, it's just supporting special needs, disabilities. Is something that sometimes we forget as a community.
yeah.
There's a lot to be done, and Laura and I are just so proud of Mia, and we want to do everything we can to help other families, particularly young parents, single parents with kids with disabilities. That's the toughest part.
How are you finding that a lot of them, like you said, young parents with kids with disabilities, is it easier now to find that type of help? I know you're working, it's always that, but at some point, people just, like you said, they just dealt with however they thought was right.
That's right. Yeah.
At time.
Yeah, compared to when we were growing up, night and day. I mean, we have the ARC, the San Antonio. We have so many different places that help families with individuals.
Even employment is changing. It's the way it views too, right? I mean, they've incorporated special needs people into it, like restaurants and other places and other industries, and it's nice to see that. That probably couldn't be done without people like you and Gordon Hartman.
Well, thank you. Look, people with disabilities. There are many people who are homebound that are able to do any traditional job. And now with technology, I mean, they can work out of their homes. They don't need to move around. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. We just have to be able to be there to support them.
No, you were the 111th Texas Secretary.
111.
Yeah, 111 Secretary of State. Were you involved with these programs while you were?
Yeah. Not too much because, as Secretary of State, you're the chief elections officer. So I was involved a lot in elections. We helped high school principals get their kids registered to vote. I was the chief economic development officer for the state of Texas. So I traveled the world promoting Texas for business, for culture. I was also the border affairs coordinator, border commerce coordinator. So anything to do with Mexico and border affairs, we handled. And in all of that, there was always a component of disability, we had the Colonia program. I mean, Colonias. Yes, it's hard to imagine that we have Colonias in Texas.
So I have to ask, did you orchestrate that? You were sworn in on Valentine's Day.
It wasn't. What's that?
I was looking at that and I said, okay, was that like a purposeful thing?
I don't remember. But let me tell you, I was. People say, well, Governor Abbott appointed you, and he nominated me, but it was the Senate who confirmed it, right? And the Senate is a bipartisan group, and I was confirmed unanimously. So really, the people of Texas appointed me.
Yeah,
they brought me on, and it's one of the coolest jobs you can have.
What year was that?
17 and 18, and you only want to do a couple of years there because it's a lot of work, and so I put my practice on hold. I went in there, did some great things.
I asked you if I could say this, and you said it was okay. You were going through some tough medical times during that period.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're a cancer survivor.
I'm a cancer survivor. Laura, one day I had a pain in my stomach, and I told Laura, hey, I've never felt this. So we ended up at the emergency room. They ran me through some scans, and the doctor comes in, she says, it's gas. You have gas. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, okay. She says, but look over here. And she pointed at my kidney. There's a big old tumor in my kidney, the size of an egg. Oh, my mom. And so she's like, you got to get this looked at. Look, you don't ever want to get that kind of news. It's one of the scariest things. Now I know how people feel when they get news of cancer, especially, when you're looking at that x-ray or the scan.
Scary.
Right? So scary. Laura and I, we were cold. So went home next day. We just started acting. Just kind of like when Mia was born, we were shocked. So this is kind of a similar. We were shocked, but very quickly, we went to see the doctor, and we got a second opinion. And the solution was to remove my kidney. The cancer hadn't metastasized, so it was still confined. Yeah. So I went in, and look, that night before, when you think you're going to die, because the doctor said there's a chance that you could die, get all your affairs in order. Whew, that takes you in a different direction.
Much, right? Literally,
yeah.
Like you
gut punch.
Now, when you're saying that, pardon my interruption, because this kind of
blood clots.
My mother. Okay, blood clots. Because my mom, we thought she had like something wrong with her kidneys or gallbladder. And then, okay, taken out. And she went into surgery. They come out and they're like, hey, there's cancer all over.
Oh.
And they were like, if we open her up, she'll die right there. Because the oxygen hit it. Was it something like that, or was it?
No, this one, he says, I've done 3,000 of these surgeries, no big deal. He says, but there's a chance you could die. And I'm like, doctor, why would you talk to me that way?
How much of a chance?
And bedside manner part of the medical
school. Well, he's a good man. The doctor was good. The thing is that there's always a chance of blood clots. Yeah. So he'd go get your affairs in order. So when you're getting rolled away into this cold surgical unit, that's when it's just you and God, baby. You're not taking anything with you.
And you can never duplicate that moment and what you're thinking, right? Yeah. There's nothing else except for that reality that this might be my last time seeing my
I just said goodbye to my family.
Yeah.
But then you wake up in the recovery room and you're like, I got a second shot on me.
Yes.
And that moment right there, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do those things I've been putting off. I'm going to do those things I've been scared to do. Because now I'm on borrowed time.
Clarity, right?
Clarity, total clarity. Yeah. And so ever since then, I've reached out to old friends. I mean, God has given me a chance to do things that I hadn't done because I've just been caught in the rat race.
I mean, adversity. I'm sorry. Adversity totally builds character. Yeah. I mean, what you mentioned with your daughter, but we have to take care. I think when God hands you those what you perceive as tough times, and you step up, you're that much better a person. That's correct. I mean, I truly believe that.
For a leadership role, right? I mean, you're asking to be the mayor of the 7th largest city and the 2nd biggest state with the 2nd largest amount of people in all of the states. Having all that life's experience, it has to help, right? It has to put things in perspective. I mean, you deal with so many different people in a diverse city like San Antonio. Being able to empathize with people in different areas, different walks of life, different experiences, different tiers of their life, that has to be just huge, right?
It gives you perspective. But you know what? Gratitude is really what drives me. I'm so grateful to San Antonio. And I've done a ton of things for the city, with the city, for the city. And right now I feel like I need to give more. I'm so grateful. You know, this city's giving me everything: my wife, my kids, my career, my education. And when I moved back here 6 years ago from Austin, I'm like, I got to do something different. But it's gratitude, it's perspective. It's like, you know what? Nothing else matters. And for me, you know, putting my career on hold, I've done that. I've done that for Texas. I even did it for El Paso. I went out there and did economic development for 3 years. And so I'm checking the box here. It's like, okay, El Paso has been great to me, check. Texas has been great to me, check. Now, San Antonio has been great to me this whole time. I've done a ton of things, but this is the one thing that I want to do before I retire. I'm 57, that I know that I can knock out of the ballpark, that I could help take this community in a much different direction. Because where we've been, where we are, isn't really helping. We've had poverty here for so many years. In 1967, when I was born, poverty in San Antonio was 18%. Today, it's 18%. Nothing's changed. So I want to come in and I want to give of myself to this community so we can really make a difference for our people.
So last week I went to one of the mayoral forums, small businesses. You and I had talked briefly on text, I believe, and then I met you there, and Willie had already kind of facilitated this, and I got a chance to introduce myself to you. And then now we're here, right? But I remember during that point, you talked a lot about small business, trying to enhance restaurants and small businesses back to San Antonio. We talked about the 18% then, the 18% now.
Yeah.
You talked about losing New Star.
New Star.
That's huge for San Antonio. Now, I know they were acquired by Dallas, but those are like jobs, money, revenue, taxes that are being lost by San Antonio. So big small business is important to all San Antonians, right? That's the heart of San Antonio, right?
Yeah.
I know you talked a lot about that. You want to talk a little bit about
Sure. So the question should be for everyone, how do we break out of the cycle of poverty? Wait, 18% is what, 400,000 people maybe? I mean, check my math. To say that 400,000 people are living below the poverty line and most of those are children, ought to make you puke. It makes me want to vomit.
Yes.
And we're accepting it? Just like, okay, it's just part of our culture, part of it. No, I don't want to leave that legacy to my kids or their kids. So when we begin to see Fortune 500 headquarter jobs leave, which is what happened with AT&T, which is what happened with New Star, Tesoro. I mean, there's a list.
It's like a red flag, right?
It's a total red flag. It's a siren. The other day I was at Haven for Hope, and Kim Jeffries, the director, told me that they were enjoying $2 million worth of philanthropy from New Star. Now that New Star's gone, there's a big void. Yeah. United Way, I believe, was taking another $3 million. Gone. All those jobs, 800 executive jobs, gone. Why are they leaving? We have a situation in San Antonio where our local government is just anti-business. You have to plainly say it. You can't sugarcoat it. And I've seen San Antonio from the outside. I know what people are saying about San Antonio, and they're saying that our local government is not friendly to business. Plainly said.
Can you expand?
Sure. So, I've been in economic development for 25 years. I know how economic developers think. So the way it works is you have a company that says, hey, we want to either expand our market or we want to install a new manufacturing operation. Help me find a city, Mr. Site Selector, where we can move our operations there. Kind of like when AT&T was trying to figure out where to come to San Antonio from St. Louis a long time ago. Somebody helped them decide San Antonio is the right place. Ed Whitaker had a lot to do with it, but so there's a whole analysis that's performed to decide where to go.
Yeah, they just don't go.
They just don't go.
And
no, there's a formula, there's a checklist,
Sure.
And that checklist is very plain vanilla. It's like, what does their workforce look like? What does their infrastructure look like? Is there enough electricity? Is there enough water? Is there good broadband? And then what's the quality of life? Are my executives going to be happy there? Are their spouses going to be happy there? And then the big question is their local government going to be friendly to us? or are they going to frustrate the hell out of us?
To fight you all the way.
Are they going to fight us? Are they going to overregulate us? Are they just not going to be friendly to us? The message we've been sending here is that we're just not friendly. Look at what we did with Chick-fil-A.
It's been like that.
No, actually not. I mean, back in the 80s, we made a lot of progress.
That was Henry Cisneros.
Henry Cisneros, I mean, look, when I moved here in 85,
That was a rock star for sure.
there was electricity in the air. If you were here in 85, you remember it was like everybody was excited.
Yeah.
People were getting along. Henry Cisneros was pushing us forward. I haven't felt that since. And look, when we're fighting with Southwest Airlines, when we're telling Amazon we're not interested in even bidding on their headquarters, when we're fighting with Elon Musk and the Boring Company, when there's all these things we've done to tell everybody that you're not welcome.
So can I ask you, because that you would think, like, you saw some of that in New York, right? When Amazon wanted to go over there and that one congresswoman or whatever she is said no.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
I don't even want to bring it to you. But in San Antonio, like, are the people here not aware that our city government is becoming an obstacle or a hurdle for growth in those industries?
They're well aware of it.
Because why are we letting that happen?
Look, I don't think people are going to let that happen much longer. I think people are fed up because they understand now that they're able to connect the dots from their own existence, their own ability to bring home a good paycheck, to the fact that we need to attract investment here. So when we bring companies here, they bring jobs, quality jobs. Those jobs translate into paychecks. Those paychecks translate into disposable money.
And they bring other people in.
It helps small businesses. And guess what? If I have a little bit of extra money, I'm gonna have a better life because now I can afford those nice things. We can't be on survival mode. And San Antonio is living paycheck to paycheck. The vast majority of the people here are living paycheck to paycheck. They're on survival mode because their jobs aren't paying them the salaries that are needed to keep up with this kind of inflation. So what do we need to do as leaders is we need to bring quality jobs here so that we can support small business and not frustrate them. Local government tends to frustrate small business in many different ways. And, perfect example is street closures. We talked about St. Mary's Street earlier. Look at all the restaurants that shut down because of street closures. Go downtown and take a look at all the streets that are shut down. That's no way to treat our small businesses. And then on top of that, with regulations that are burdensome.
And we saw that with the film industry too. I don't know if you remember, but there was a time in San Antonio where we were getting quite a few movies made. Yeah. Now I understand that the film commission is kind of waffled on that, but you're not seeing them come here anymore because they make it so hard for them to come here.
Yeah.
So they're in Austin.
They're in Austin. Bastrop's building a huge studio there. Look, the only way we're going to break the cycle of poverty is through aggressive economic development. What does that mean? Because people are like, well, what do you mean by economic development? It's just bringing in investment that's going to create
and not losing what you have.
So I'll tell you, right now, our solution to our budget is, we're spending more than we're taking in. So let's just raise fees on people.
No.
Let's raise taxes on people. That's not the solution. Here's the solution is let's expand our tax base. Let's get more people to contribute to our tax base so we can share the burden amongst many more of us. And the only way you do that is you bring in people from the outside who are going to go buy a house, a business, a building, that are going to pay property taxes. They're going to hire people who are going to pay sales taxes when they buy stuff. That's how you do it. You bring in new investment from the outside. Here, we're just selling each other stuff back and forth. We're not going to get anywhere. We got to bring in new investment. It's called foreign direct investment. We bring that investment here, and that helps us grow.
So I have a question. So obviously, and then I'm sorry, but we're about public safety here. We want people that are going to run our city or lead our city to come in, and we want to give them an opportunity to talk about those very important things too. But we also want to transition the things that are critical importance to us and the men and women of the police department. We'll do that in a second if you're okay with that. But there's 4 people on council, right? 4 people that are running for mayor.
Mm-hmm. 4 people.
I think 1 jumped in, 1 jumped out.
Yeah, 4, and then 1 former council.
Right, and so
it's like 7 people.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Hey, Nico, we can talk about that, by the way, because I just talked to a guy who ran for mayor in Chicago, He needed like 20,000 signatures and like $7,000. Here, all you need is $100. Oh, anyway, that's it. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. My question to you is like, if the listeners are asking, like, what do you bring to the table that they don't?
With respect to
Anything?
Well, I thought we were talking about law enforcement, because if the question was about law enforcement, I'll say that the first thing I bring to the table is that I'll never take a knee to defund the police. So I'll bring that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a big thing for law enforcement.
I will never take a knee to defund the police.
But let's before we go to the
So you all remember George Santos? You remember that name? He's this kooky character from New York that lied to everybody.
Yeah.
Pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. Big time. Our system of elections relies on the candidates to find each other out and call each other out. But if that doesn't happen, then the people are left to fend for themselves and figure out if that person is really who they say they are. In San Antonio, we have 14,000 city employees that have to fill out a job application, that have to go through background checks, credit checks, reference checks, criminal checks, and yet none of our mayoral candidates have to do the same thing. They're not being asked to do that. So the one thing that, you talk about what I bring to the table is, well, what I bring to the table is transparency, is clarity in who I am as an individual. My resume is posted online. I'm happy to fill out a job application. You can see my non-existing criminal record. You can look at my credit report. You can look at whatever you want. It's transparency. What's happening right now is that, and it's not just with city council and mayor, for instance, just in general, we're allowing people to run for office just because they raise their hand and they say, I want to do it. Then they take a little bit of their money and they hire, a crackpot campaign manager whose job is just to, make sure that person gets elected at all costs. And the people are just left to believe. So what I'm telling our voters is look at our background. Take a deep dive at who we are. Check out our fitness of character. Check out our education, our qualifications. You cannot have an unqualified individual running the seventh largest.
There's a low voter turnout. Is that a concern for you?
It is a concern because it just shows that people don't care about.
We said that before.
It has to get bad enough. And that's what's happened in the nation.
I guarantee you,
lags behind that.
I guarantee you, people are fed up and they want change, and you'll see that reflected in the polls. You'll see that because people are going to come out, even though we're having to compete with Pooch Parade and King William that day of election. People are going to come out. Everything I'm hearing is that people want change. They're fed up with broken promises. They're fed up with individuals who grandstand and do nothing for the city, and then say they do. I'll tell you, I've run 3 state agencies. Experience in both government and business is very important. I've presided over governing boards bigger than city council. I've run a law enforcement agency. So I've been in law enforcement. I understand what law enforcement needs. And as a businessman, I'm a small business owner. I too am a tech entrepreneur. I've invested in tech companies and all that. But if you allow individuals who don't have the integrity, who don't have the experience, the qualifications, and the relationships, then we're not going to move forward. Right now, we keep fighting with our governor, our lieutenant governor, our senators, our president.
Isn't that insane?
That's insane.
That's insane.
We can't have a mayor who's fighting with our state and federal leaders. Can't do that. Aside from the fact that our mayor is it's supposed to be a nonpartisan seat, should stay out of partisan politics and not get involved and not make decisions for the community based on his or her ideology. Remember we turned away the Republican National Convention, and I did it on ideology. Yeah. That's a $500 million economic impact that we missed out on.
I was gonna, because we didn't talk. We talked a little bit about what you were comfortable about talking about.
Yeah.
And of course, as things went along, I said, well, I don't know when to bring this up, because
let's have that discussion. Whatever.
Because and if you've seen some of the podcasts, Dave and I are the same, but we also have really good differences that I think they complement each other. I what you talk about with the mayor, current mayor, Nuremberg, what you just said, he's showing his partisanship. I mean, obvious right there. And I believe that is everything we've talked to up until now is the driving force of what is killing our economy.
Definitely holding it back.
Definitely holding it back, you know. And I was going to ask how much of, you know, they're running away these companies and stuff, but how much time and money and effort is spent on more partisan projects? Things that we've seen in this national, you know, election that people are tired of. These committees that really only satisfy a very small group.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll mention this as we talk about public safety. That Act 4SA, they're called now. They were defund SAPD. They just changed their name. You know, think about it. Rebranding. Yes. They are a very small group.
Yeah.
But they have a loud voice because of our media slanting. I totally believe that. You know, which the cool thing is, and I've seen this from other podcasts, and not just hearing it from them, is podcasts are becoming the news. Dan Bongino, who is one of my favorite podcasters, is fixing to become the number 2 with the FBI. Congratulations, Dan Bongino. That's just freaking awesome. But he's been saying, we are the news now. Yeah. People are getting tired of the mainstream media. They're coming to podcasts.
There's no more filter.
Yeah, no more filter.
There's no more filter.
And they can't fight that because, you know, either you come on and turn to my channel or you go over here on the internet and listen to a podcast, and especially with people you trust. And they gain your trust and stuff like that.
So the vocal minority is really loud. And what we've allowed San Antonio to do is to focus on preferences and not priorities. People are exercising their preferences. They prefer to do this, you know, rather than what we need to do. We prefer to spend $8 million on bike lanes instead of affording another 350 police officers, instead of getting more sophisticated traffic control systems, instead of fixing our water leakage problem that we have.
Water leakage problem.
So we go after preferences that are going to appease those loud minorities instead of really focusing on what's needed.
Right. We have a little feel good things like that's the prize. My kids like you know, the little McDonald's
The Happy Meal.
Yeah, the Happy Meals because of the toy. You know, that's what I feel like.
Shiny object.
Yeah, it's a shiny object.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. And the food they don't.
Look, and there's nothing wrong with some of these feel-good projects. You know, I love art.
Yeah.
You know, I love street art. I love all those things. But when I hear that there's a senior citizen on the east side who doesn't have air conditioning, and our solution is to hand them a Bots fan, that's a slap in the face.
Yeah.
I mean, how much could an AC unit cost? Instead, you know, we're building bike lanes. Can you imagine 20 years of tearing up our streets, another 20 years of tearing up our streets to have bike lanes that are going to cost $8 billion when we have people, you know, in parts of town that don't even have sidewalks, where our senior citizens can't walk to their senior citizen centers because there's no sidewalk?
In South Texas, there's a very small window where you're going to enjoy riding a bike.
Yeah, but all that,
you know what I mean?
it's an illusion too, because I'll tell you, I was on the command level of the police department for a long time, and one of my assignments was on the east side as the commander, which is a great side of town, wonderful people. I've always said that the people were really supportive of the police, despite of some of the other narratives, right? But at the end of the day, but it's a lowering economic side of town, and they have their problems, right, in terms of crime. And that's our job as a police department to make that lesser so. But, you know, there would be times as a captain where they'd say, hey, you got to go to Houston and New Braunfels because there was a protest against whatever.
Yeah.
And I would go out there, and the media would be there, and they would use those cameras in a way that they shut down the lens because there's only 4 people there. But it would lead to 6 o'clock news on KSAT.
Yeah.
You know, it's
create the illusion.
So 4 people, 5 people, maybe 10 people, depending if they would come and go, they would create this illusion that people in San Antonio are very unhappy with whatever. In this case, it was the police.
The whole concept of narratives. You know, we have allowed narratives to take over reality. And I'll give you a couple examples, and it relates to police too. You know, there's a narrative out there that San Antonio is the dirtiest city because some idiot in his mother's basement created a poll that says that San Antonio is the dirtiest city, it's the fattest city, it's whatever. So there's all these attacks.
Charles Barkley stands.
Charles Barkley. There's all these attacks on us, you know, and yet there's nobody pushing back. If I'm mayor and somebody says that San Antonio is the ugliest city, I'm calling a press conference and I'm calling BS on them, and you're going to be pushing back. If you allow it to happen, which to a certain extent, the police has allowed that narrative to happen too, where they're being made out to be the bad guys, and then it becomes reality.
To a great
Because if you keep saying things and there's no pushback, and people are like, well, it must be true. So
That's in a lot of things.
it's in everything. It's baked in. But like you said, now we don't have filters. Now Hollywood doesn't get to tell us what to think. And by the way, Hollywood has done a great job in vilifying police officers, vilifying fathers, husbands. I mean, I watched a movie the other day and they made the husband look like a weakling, right? So there's all these narratives that are out there that we need to push back on, because then if we don't, then it just becomes reality.
So when we had Manny Pelaez on, he's two-term councilman, right? Running for mayor, you got to give him credit, right? He was the first guest on our show, so we always give him credit there. But I made mention to him that from 2000, which was a tumultuous year, the Floyd thing, COVID was rampant, and the Floyd thing, and then it was the Breonna Taylor thing, right? So there was a lot of momentum against police activity in general. But we didn't hear anything out of City Hall pro-police, not one word, for almost 4 years. I think last year, about midway through, they kind of did appreciate SAPD Day or something.
Yeah, because elections were coming.
Yeah, but I mean, for 4 years not saying one thing positive about the police department that represents their city. As a mayoral candidate, is like that is, I know you know that's unacceptable, but that can't happen again. That's how all of these other things happen. That's how those dominoes start to fall and villainize the police officer. Totally.
Like I said, I ran a law enforcement agency, Texas Racing Commission. I've seen firsthand what peace officers have to go through, all the BS they have to put up with. The last thing they need is for their local government to not support them. You know, I want happy police officers. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's just I want happy police officers.
I asked Manny directly, obviously because he works with the mayor right now, Ron Nerlford. And it was a general question. I said, does he like the police? And a lot that can be taken a lot of different ways. And for one thing, and he said, well, I've never heard him say directly, I don't like the police. Okay. And that would be political suicide, really, to say that as a mayor of a city. Although I'm not saying it hasn't been done. but their actions speak that way. And what we're seeing, and we've been hitting on it quite a bit, we're at a big time disadvantage, the SAPD, and not just us, but you got Bexar County that have constables and park police and all these other law enforcement agencies who skinker. We're at a big disadvantage here in San Antonio because of the politics. We have a leftist DA, and there's no denying that. It's not an opinion anymore. It's out there. Who is being soft on crime, and we're going to talk about that plea deal that we discussed earlier about it. And our chief, to me, has become, William McManus has become just a pawn for the city government, which to me is mostly leftist. He's doing their bidding. Obviously, they could fire him. For some reason, I don't know why he's still around. He's been around long enough. He's been around a lot of other places. I don't think the money is an issue, really. But we're at a disadvantage because we are not performing. I'm not trying to tell, because we'll get a lot of people come at, oh, you're just trying to say we should worship the police. No, we just need to be respected for what you mentioned, the tough job that we have. And fairness, really. We'll take, an undesirable outcome as long as it was fair. That's the way I see it. And I just don't get that vibe from our city government anymore. Because before it was never, like when Cisneros was around, politics weren't as so divided back in those days. Now it's like what you're seeing and what you talked about, it's almost an agenda. Let's just destroy the police. Who ever heard of defunding us until all that shit, you know, they'll bleep it out or whatever. But
No, leave it on there.
yeah, right. You know what I mean?
Look, I would love to talk about what I see as a great and positive thing, the way things should be for our police department. And like I said earlier, I want happy police officers. I want officers to show up to work, clicking their heels, knowing that they're appreciated, knowing that they're being compensated fairly for their work.
So how do you do that? Like seriously, how do you increase the morale of police department? We're talking about this police department, San Antonio, Bexar County, all of the other municipalities all matter just as much. But today we're talking about the SAPD officers. They're not happy with their leadership. That's been done. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No.
There's letters floating around. What's being investigated now? It was another written to the city manager. It was a truthful letter. There's been other exit interviews that former deputy chiefs, high-ranking people that were very well respected, provided to us that we put on the podcast. There have been other letters. The men and women are screaming for relief. And so if they're not going to give it, then how do you, as a mayor, accomplish it and creating a better morale for police officers, men and women of the police department, if City Hall, if the people that oversee that, just specifically, very specifically, the city manager and the deputy city manager of public safety, how do you do that?
I can't speak to whatever our current mayor is doing, but the first thing I would do is I would get heavily involved myself, personally involved, not just in contract negotiations, but also day-to-day stuff. You know, I want to be able to know that our men and women are being sent out into the field with the proper equipment, the proper resources, with the proper encouragement, knowing that their families are taken care of through the salary that they earn. I think that it's just psychology. I mean, I don't pretend to be an expert in policing. I mean, I've run this state agency with law enforcement, but this is different. You know, this is something that really involves day-to-day connections and activity with our citizens. Look, the first thing you do is you change the narratives. Just like I said, we need to change the narrative about San Antonio being an anti-Vista city. We need to change the narrative that the city doesn't like our police or is unsatisfied or doesn't appreciate the police. You change the narrative. You do it not through words but through actions.
So I have a question. So this letter is the one I'm talking about. It was sent to Eric Walsh. It was anonymously submitted.
Yeah.
And obviously it was submitted that way because they don't have the confidence that they could go talk to somebody in good faith and actually be received, like that information be received in terms of how do we better the organization. This letter is being investigated by Internal Affairs. And the reason it's being investigated, they want to find out who authored it and who disseminated it. Really, at the end of the day, you spend a lot of money on that, right? I mean, they're all sergeants at Internal Affairs. They make a fair wage. Like you said, the salaries for SAPD are top-notch. Always could be better, but they're top-notch. But no one seems to be investigating the letter in terms of what prompted this letter to be written. I don't know if you read it. I'm not going to ask you.
I started to, but then, it was a little too much for me. So I didn't finish reading it, but I saw it.
But my point is, wouldn't you want to get to what led to the letter? There's been others. We've talked about others, as opposed to just figuring out who passed it around. Is that too much to ask?
Yeah. And look, as it is, we're having a hard time recruiting officers, having a hard time getting them to stay. And when you see morale that leads to anonymous letter writing like this, then that is a symptom of a bigger problem. That's a symptom right there. I can't imagine this being a fake letter.
It's not a fake letter.
Right? And I don't believe it is. So that just shows that, one, there's no conduit for someone who has a grievance to relay that grievance in a way where they trust that they're not going to be reprimanded.
You got to put it out anonymously.
That right there is a problem in and of itself. That you don't have a grievance process. There's no ombudsman. There's nobody in between that someone can come to safely and say that. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But that's one thing. The other is the fact that this is also indicative of a lack of confidence in the leadership. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what that to me says.
Yeah, I'll say it. Yeah.
Well, there is.
And I'm not anonymous, and neither is he. My name is David Sapansky, and that's what it gets.
I got a text from someone that there was a rumor that I wrote that letter.
That you wrote it. Yeah. See, the people say.
Yeah, and I said, well, that's cool, but number one, I'm not a captain. Of course, I could have just said that if I wrote it. Two, I don't need to be anonymous. I don't have anybody to worry about.
Yeah.
And I don't know as much as I don't know enough about what he said in there, or she. We don't know if it's he or she, to tell you the truth, to put it together in that context. To tell you the truth.
Look, it's for me personally. Instead of getting wrapped up in all these internal politics and all that, I just want harmony. Can we have harmony? Can we just who was that guy from East LA? Can we just get along? And for Rodney King. Can we just get along?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, and this is my selfish reason for wanting our police officers to be happy, satisfied, and all that. Is because when I go out in South San Antonio, that's one last thing I need to worry about. Because you remember we talked about that checklist that those site selectors look at? A big line on that is public safety.
Okay.
And right now, when people look at our public safety record, just like every other big city, but if they look at ours, it's not going to be pretty. Even though people are saying crime's down 6% and all that, I don't buy it. I don't buy it because, we just had our cars broken into, and I've had friends that their cars get broken into.
I texted you when I saw that.
And police officers get their cars broken into, their homes broken into, and their families victimized.
You can't imagine the number of people that have texted me saying this happened to us. And here's the thing is people don't report it anymore. I hadn't reported a few of our break-ins because there's nothing that the police can do. They come in, they take a report, and then
even if they do arrest them, the DA is going to just pretty much dismiss it.
That's right. And that's our gun. Yeah, we need to talk about.
I want to be fair. This letter wasn't meant to be the highlight or the focus of it, but I guess for me, I wanted to bring up the letter because it's important and critical and directly relates to what you talked about. You want to increase the morale at the police department.
You have to.
And in order to increase the morale of the police department, they have to believe in good, objective, professional, standardized leadership.
Yeah.
And that's imperative.
Yeah.
We're not even yet talking about the lack of proactive police work. Policemen getting out there when they're not told to go to this address for someone's car getting broken in, but going out and trying to find the criminals that are committing the crimes before they actually get there.
Yeah.
So I have a follow-up question. The 45-year plea by Joe Gonzalez. Now, this guy attempted capital murder of a police officer 3 times over. I know Nico Lloyd says it's standard to charge him with aggravated assault, a police officer, because they're the same penalty, Brett's felony first degree. And I guess it's one lesser element to have to prove, right? And fine, I guess that's just talk from lawyer to lawyer. But you, being a candidate with all this experience, having been a high-ranking individual in the state of Texas, right? You ran a law enforcement agency. What would you say today to officers, Red Chopez, Adam Rule, and Raul Chavez? Those were 3 that were shot by this guy in 2003. What would you say to them? What are you going to say to them?
What I would say is that I intend to use the power of the office of mayor to advocate for stricter sentencing guidelines, for pushing back on soft on crime policies, and standing up for them, making sure that they don't fear that everything they do is going to get them sued or getting them arrested. But when somebody takes a shot at you and then they walk away, technically this guy walked away even though he got a sentence, but for what he did, it's unconscionable to seeing how that ended up.
Yes.
And that sends the wrong message. The guys that broke into our cars this weekend know that nothing is going to happen to them. There's no repercussion for their actions. We saw it in California. You could steal up to $900 and walk away and nothing will happen to you. People know that here. So if we're sending the message that it's okay to shoot police officers because you may or may not even get punished, that's wrong. One time, I'll tell you a quick story. I was with Governor Perry in Mexico City. And the night before, he had authorized the execution of a cop killer. It was a Mexican national who came to Texas and killed a cop.
Governor Perry.
Governor Perry. And so that happened at midnight. The next day, we're flying to Mexico City. We land, and we get accosted by 200 reporters, all asking Governor Perry, why did he authorize for the execution of his Mexican national? And you know what his answer was? Don't come to Texas and kill cops.
That easy.
It's that easy.
Yeah.
And
How many politicians do you know that have the backbone to say that?
I know he does.
Yeah.
Well,
No, he does.
And let me tell you, that's my philosophy, is we need to send out very strong signals. Don't mess with our police officers, because that kind of stuff that we just saw, it sends the wrong message. So leniency is the worst enemy of law enforcement.
Here's and it'd be a tough issue. Love to hear what you're saying, but and I get what you said. Can't we all just get along? Well, we all love that, but we know that's not realistic. And obviously we got to be fair, because we do have bad guys. We have criminals. I believe more so now, because they didn't round up all the illegals that came over that were criminals, even in their own country. They didn't stop. They said, hey, I'm a dreamer. I want to own a bakery and make donuts, even though I used to be Sicario in Venezuela. That's what I feel like some people think. But police work is, obviously we have guidelines, we have rules, we have the laws that we got to follow as law enforcement officers, but it's not pretty when, obviously people don't want to see people killed, period. Definitely not the police officers. And then they don't want to see, the citizens get killed. But in between that, they might get hurt severely. And obviously now with cameras, body cams, cameras here, they're going to see that. And I know there's not a lot we can do with the media, showcasing those things, because they don't tell you the story, they tell you a story. They'll spin it in a certain way, make us look bad. But what we're lacking desperately is, and not even from our own department, someone stepping up and saying, hey, look, I get what you see here. It's an ongoing investigation to begin with. When I figure out more of the facts to give you something to hang on, I'll tell you. Now, our chief, he opens his mouth too soon, I believe, and he stuck his foot in his mouth several times, which is awesome, to me, because that's not the right thing to do. But we need the backing of, the city government, and from someone like yourself, should you be elected mayor, to say, hey, look, yes, we get what you saw. It does not look pretty, but this was justified under the law. He was investigating, and these officers did nothing wrong. What we're seeing from the DA is that they're just kind of like, they're setting up the charges on them. And what's really, really sad is when we get to the courtroom, the agenda of we just hate the police. Well, yeah, convict him because he's a bad police officer. He beat up a black man. Almost. I was in the courtroom helping. I do expert testimony for Nico and Jay Norton and them, and almost felt like, amidst all the legalities in the process, that someone was going to get out Daryl Harris, but he beat up a black man. It doesn't matter about everything that was justified. That's what I felt at the time. So what I'm saying is that, and you told me this in one of our conversations, you don't know what you don't know, right? And you seem like a man, obviously you would be successful if you didn't seek those people out that do know, to help you understand what happened. And it doesn't seem like that's occurring at this point, because they just go along with the narrative and say, yeah, bad guys, and to me, I think the chief is getting direction and just said, hey, those guys need to go, because he doesn't have to answer the hard questions, because 4 years down the line, they'll go through arbitration to get cleared, and that ass kicking you get for 4 years plus is really bad. And that's why we're having trouble with it.
I think it's just about accountability for every level of the police department, including the highest level of the police department, which is the chief, to the very newest probationary officer, right? And all points in between. That's kind of all we're
just kind of
you know, it was kind of a gut punch, you know, rather than say anything else, it was a gut punch when we saw nobody come forth and really kind of talk about the disappointment of that plea bargain. We didn't see it at the head of this agency. We didn't see it at the head of the San Antonio Police Officers Association. They put out a statement a couple of days ago, so we're talking about 2 weeks ago after.
But they put one out. Right?
They did put one out. And then nothing really from the city manager's office, deputy city manager's office, or the city hall. But that's okay. But, you know, when the San Antonio Police Officers Association put it out, they kind of did a narrative, and they put like a one-sentence bullet point in there. And it says, however, there was much more to the story behind the scenes, ... And I've tried to call Danny a couple of times. We both know him. And hadn't been able to get hold of him. Probably very busy. But when you put something like that, you're an attorney, you're almost insinuating that there was some sort of evidentiary problem, a protocol problem, or procedural. There was no problem. That deal played out during the middle of the day for about an hour and a half. And then helicopters were up. Everyone was on the scene. So I guess what we're looking for is just for people to champion their beliefs in exactly the same way you said you would. And so we really hope that you and others will start to really do that and say, you know what, there is going to be a ringing of a bell. There's going to be a new page here. Police officers are going to be held accountable. The ones that aren't doing what they're supposed to do will be dealt with, including termination if it's warranted and sustainable and defendable. But the ones that are doing the right thing, at least we're going to support it a lot more than they've been supported. And I think that's a fair thing to ask.
Absolutely. Look, there's room for good people in every profession. And I think that because police and fire are such important roles for this community, you know, we need everybody to step up. Yeah, are there bad apples everywhere? Like I said, every profession has it. And they should be dealt with, you know, accordingly. But you can't generalize. We've got to be able to change that narrative. We have to be able to, just like that, recognize heroic deeds. I don't think I've seen our leaders have any type of ceremony for heroic deeds. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
They did.
But the fact that it doesn't resonate with me should...
internal.
You always see those images of the NYPD where they have all these great, you know...
they had one not too long ago. It's annual, and they'll do like...
Well, let me say something about that, because, you know, and I've mentioned this, I was, you know, he was a detective at one time in narcotics. I retired out of wrote a repeat offenders program, and so you rely on confidential informants, snitches a lot of times for information. And I've been saying this is kind of a joke, but it's real. I have more confidential informants now than I ever did as a detective. So in that, what you're talking about, that ceremony, someone shoots something out to me, and I won't mention this person's name. I'm sure they're a good person. So they're like, this dude has not done anything. He's getting this Officer of the Year award, and these assignments have only been over a year.
Oh God! So that's even political,
right? And obviously it's showcasing these feel good things for them. And I'm not taking away from maybe the good job that they did at that point, but definitely not warranted for, you know, when you have these other guys that, you know, because there were guys like us. I mean, I wanted to go to work. What you said, I wasn't clicking my heels, but I was wanting to arrest bad guys. And I wanted the baddest of the bad guys, you know, because I wanted to test my training and my abilities and stuff against that, you know. Not to mention having been on SWAT and having that training, it's like a lot of times these guys ran into the wrong officer and they took advantage of it. You know, I wanted to be the guy that they ran into, you know, and test that.
But the men and women that do it at that high level, they're really not looking for that. You know, but it's nice to get a pat on the back. It's nice to get acknowledged for, like,
100%.
Yeah, that's kind of it. But we're not trying to, you know, this is a lot to take in. I know you're very experienced in state government. You've been around a couple of cities on a lot of boards and things like that. We're not trying to persuade you one way or the other. We're just trying to kind of give you a little bit better perspective of what the men and women out there feel and how, you know, what can be done to kind of change that perspective.
Yeah, look, like Willie said, I did say I don't know what I don't know sometimes. And what I would like to do is, as your mayor, I want to talk to the experts. I want to hear from those people who know. And so what I want to do is I want to make sure that our police officers are represented wherever it is that I'm making decisions. I want them to have a seat at the table and a voice in the conversation so that we can avoid all this crap that's happening, from micromanagement to, all these things that we see with qualified immunity and all. Let's just put it all on the table and let's fix it and not play politics with it, because like I said, my selfish reason is so that I can go sell San Antonio and know that things are taken care of when it comes to public safety.
Check off that.
Just check it off. It's like one less thing to worry about. But if I'm over there trying to sell and this happened to me, by the way, and I'll tell you a story. I'm over there trying to sell San Antonio, and I bring people here, and then they get their car broken into. I'll tell you, true story. I had some folks in. I think they're from Europe. I can't remember, but we brought them to San Antonio because we wanted to show them San Antonio. So we picked them up at the airport. We went out to the Rim for lunch. We come out. Our car had gotten broken into. All their luggage and laptops and everything got stolen. Do you think they invested here?
No, that's not.
It's a true story, man.
Because you're showcasing San Antonio.
I'm here showcasing San Antonio.
Oh my gosh.
And look, I'll tell you what.
It's a hot spot.
Yeah, and it's so. How do we? So it's all connected. How do we expect to get out of our poverty cycle, which is a downward spiral, if we can't make our city attractive to investment? And the way we make our city attractive to investment is we have good electricity, we have good police work, we have good fire work, we have all these things that are working at peak performance. That's the other thing, is that our city services must be provided to us at peak performance, not half-assed. At peak performance. We have to make sure that everybody has all the resources they need to be able to deliver those services to the taxpayer
while they're feeling safe and secure.
Of course,
that has to happen right now.
But I'll tell you, and if this is, should you become mayor, it is. They play this kind of a shell game. So we weren't defunded, right? They had that vote, a couple of times. And
technically it's against the law now in Texas, right?
But is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, they did that, and that's a good thing because we can't lose the money. But what we saw was the backdoor way of how to damage the police in the policies that were created, and there's their handcuff policies on the police officer, and people don't know this. We pretty much can't chase anymore in vehicles. They'll say, and less of this. Chokeholds, are banned, and less of this.
There's no one less anymore. It's just banned.
Yeah, I mean that's all the George Floyd bullshit. They like to kill.
We have to qualify this, right? I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to, and we can get right back to it, but chokeholds were never used. But at the end of the day, they're a way when someone's trying to harm you and kill you, and you have to do whatever you can. You'll do whatever you have.
We want to do a podcast with some officers that are involved in jiu-jitsu heavily, and even some guys from Brazil that talk about, because I love jiu-jitsu, definitely. But you see a lot of this, what I call dancing. They're rolling with them, and they're doing this stuff. And now, if we went to a class, we sparred against each other. Well, we're not crooks, you know what I mean? So, and I know it's hard to go do that, but it's not as realistic as
you don't have 30 pounds of equipment.
100%.
Chokehold just brings forth this nasty vision or this optic that you're out there choking someone to death.
Yes,
and that's what we're saying is that's not what we're advocating for.
And they don't even want you to put your weight on people. The NYPD banned just put your weight on people. Well, how do you control that when they're prone?
Look, if somebody's attacking my wife and you show up, you chokehold the shit out of them. Okay?
Where the head goes, the body goes. And that's one of the best. I mean, anybody that's been involved in any kind of scuffle, and again, it's not sitting there trying to knock them out. It's to get control of them. And that's a longer story.
Yeah.
But my issue is that's what's happened with the SAPD, what you mentioned about the rim. When we were on and the patrolmen, we were put in high crime areas, and our job was, hey, go find crime. And so crime, it's not like we're going to go, hey, he's breaking into a car. We're looking for the person that's going to do that. And we're hoping to catch him before he does it or after they do it, or obviously in the process. But that means that we have to lawfully stop them and get into their business. and look for these people that look suspicious, things like that. That's not happening because of what they might get into. That's officers are going in self-survival mode, like, hey, I don't want to get suspended or charged.
I put all those rules and policies and procedures, I categorize them under the soft on crime category.
Definitely.
Just like we're soft on crime, on releasing people and setting limits and all that. All that stuff is being soft on crime because it prevents you from doing your work.
It's also placating to the special interest.
Well, that's exactly it.
But at the end of the day, policing is a very dangerous job. People that do, police officers that do this willingly and come forward, men and women, they know there's a certain inherent risk to doing the job.
Yeah.
That they take that on willingly. But in order to take that on willingly, they just need someone like you or whoever it is at the mayoral position that says they're going to do exactly what you say. I'm going to get involved. It's a big job. You can't be involved in everything. But just trying to be involved, trust and verify what's being told you by the head of an agency, that the men and women at the job are feeling appreciated, there's good morale, and that they want to do their job, and they're being encouraged to do their job the way that job is meant to be. And that's what he's talked about.
Yeah.
Proactive policing, making sure the citizens are safe, getting out there in the business of the bad guys and keep them from doing it.
We've seen the effects of that back in, what year did they start that? 94. The gangs hit hard here. They were trying to mimic gangs from California, and there were like 12 drive-by shootings a day in the city. And so
I don't remember those.
Yeah, I was on Texas Monday.
Yeah. I was on SWAT at the time. What were you?
I was on Harker what?
It was almost like accepted. And that kind of stuff happened all the time.
Yeah, but they put together a task force, Violent Crimes Task Force, that I was on night, so they had SWAT working, they had probably Park and Walk working, the SOU's Special Operations Unit, and the nighttime traffic. That was funny in and of itself, the nighttime traffic shift. They were working on these, what they considered hotspots and created these locations. And, we got, the funny story of it was that a deputy chief came in and gave us the old football, game, district champion game, let's go out there and fight these guys. Well, after that first night, after knocking some heads around and there were some complaints in internal affairs, the next day was like, hey guys.
I was just joking.
Hey guys, we get it.
I want you to do it, but not like that.
But we were effective. We stopped, we lowered the drive-bys at that time. And I don't feel like for one, I don't think they had the manpower to do it. And if they did have the manpower, the way these guys have been, I'd say not just trained, but conditioned at this point, they are not like we were back in the day. And nothing against those guys, I want people to know that, nothing against the good men and women that are employed now. But I do know, and I think they know, they're not getting the training that they should to when they run across those people.
Yeah, anything that gets in the way of being effective is something we should run away from. Let me ask you this question. So you've seen on these YouTube channels, these First Amendment auditors that go jack with police officers.
We've seen them in San Antonio.
What's your thought on that? Because to me, it's like, what a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
So what is your thought? I want to hear from you. What do you think about these First Amendment auditors?
I want to hear from you too.
Well, I am on YouTube on one of their the Texas Sheepdog, and I don't want to showcase this asshole.
Yeah,
but he's turned out. I think they caught him with child pornography.
Oh Lord,
recently. Yeah, he's a turd.
It just seems to me that. Anyway, I hate seeing those guys because
what they do is they interfere with your duties.
Yeah.
What people don't understand is, let's say we walked out in uniform and hey guys, there's something going on. Regardless, here on this property, and we're in uniform, we are doing our job.
Mm-hmm.
Because our first level of force is our presence. And just by our presence, people should adhere and not break the law and things like that. That's why you have an officer there or a security guard, whatever. When these people walk up to you for absolutely no reason other than to harass,
to jack.
Yeah, to jack, because now they have a camera.
Yeah.
And some of them get downright.
Because they're trying to provoke a reaction.
Right.
Of course.
And that's clickbait.
But
I get all that.
Why do you have a camera in my face? Like there was one, and I'm sure we can find it, but they went into a substation, downtown substation. There were some SWAT guys there at the time, and they just, I think it was Gerald Fiesta, and they had just stepped in to take a, use the bathroom, and they were walking out. Had nothing to do with anything. Going back, getting their cars to patrol downtown again. And they for one, they shouldn't have been allowed in the lobby there. But then they started harassing the SWAT guys and talking shit to them.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and one of the guys, I mean, the dude, you don't mess with this guy. I wouldn't mess with this guy. And he turned around, and he was about to, and he caught himself, and he's like, he turned away, he walked away. But it's cowardice. They're pure cowards. When you stick your camera in any grown man's face and start demeaning them, then you should expect some sort of pushback, but that's my take on these guys. Like, I had one guy, that Texas sheepdog, I made a traffic stop. I had information this guy was dealing dope. I did stop him. He was in possession of dope. Of course, our goal a lot of times is to get information for something big. That's right. From these people. And I wanted to work with this guy. Well, this Texas sheepdog is filming us there at this, and we were on the northeast side, way northeast side. And I didn't recognize him because the usual picture we saw of him was not him now. He'd gained a lot of weight, and actually he was just filming, but I didn't want my suspect's face on anything because he might give me information, So he was close by, and I said, hey, you know this guy? He says, no, but should I? I said, well, I just feel like you have some interest in what's going on. And he just chuckles it off. He goes, why? And I said, no, should I? He goes, just go back to work. Real smart ass.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I looked at him. I said, I'll go back to work.
Well, look, that's when I went back, when I talked about making sure our officers feel appreciated, that also includes respect. And I just feel that those guys lack the respect that volunteers.
A lot of them, they do it again, just for harassment, because they don't like the police, no doubt. This guy, Texas Sheepdog, was in law enforcement. He worked at the jail. My brother's in from Travis County, I think, is what he was. He calls himself an instructor. Like, he knows better, and he's going to teach us stuff and all that. And we see where that's gone. And some of the other guys, one guy went to jail, and he came out because he was not the big boy in there, and he came out. He actually apologized to I think it was Leon Valley.
Joe Sabat.
Yeah, he went back and apologized, like, hey, man, yeah, I'm sorry. But
Good for him.
Yeah, and I understand, and obviously their right is to freedom of speech and to stand back. And I did see Florida passed a law about giving officers a buffer. You can't be within so many feet of them. And I've always believed that. Like, if I'm struggling with somebody and you're over here yelling expletives at me, I don't need to be doing this because you're taking away from this. Any distraction could get me hurt or killed. And these people are just flapping their gums over there, because they don't know the law. They're just.
But it all goes back. The people get away with what people allow them to get away.
That's right. 100%.
And so and I know we're out of time because we can't run a long time. But, and you've been so kind and real forthright. Thank you for that.
Well, do you want us to read your pledge, or do you want to read your pledge? Because I think it's extremely important. I think it was well written. Because everything that we've been talking about up to this point, I think, sums up a lot of it. What you said.
Yeah. Look, thank you for doing that. So, were you going to say something though, or were you just going to segue into this?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of close it out and give you an opportunity to say.
So, we talked about this George Santos guy earlier, how easy it is to pull the wool over people's eyes, lie to them, betray their trust. And part of the reason people don't like politicians is because they lie or they make promises that they can't deliver or won't deliver because for whatever reasons they succumb to pressure or whatever. So one of the things that I want to do in my campaign is I want to be very forthright and transparent with what I believe I can accomplish as mayor. And one of those things is I put together a pledge to all of our SAPD officers. It's a pledge for me. It says to them, look, this is what I want to do. So I'd just like to read the 10 points and not really get into the details.
Sure.
But, this is
this is on your website.
We're going to be posting it soon. It's not up yet.
Okay.
But this is putting it in writing.
Right.
This is so that everybody understands where I stand in relation to our law enforcement community, and I'll be doing the same thing for fire, because you guys deserve the respect to know where your candidates stand. So, if I may, let me just kind of go through this. So, pledge number 1 is to fully fund public safety first. Whenever we go in and start working on the budget, and by the way, the mayor who steps in is already at a disadvantage because there's already budget talks happening right now. And so, one of the things I want to do is the first line item is going to be public safety, police and fire. And we need to make sure that they get funded first and fully funded. The second one is I want to stand firm against anti-police rhetoric and violence. We just talked about that. This violence and rhetoric, we've got to be able to push back on it. And I will have the relationships in Austin and in Washington to help with legislation about that. Support strong and fair collective bargaining agreements. When you guys go to the table, I want to make sure that you have a receptive audience on the other side that is not there to frustrate you. I've studied arbitration. I understand about conflict resolution. There will be tension, but it also needs to be a fair negotiation where you're not being manipulated in a way that doesn't, behoove, public servants who's trying to do the right thing, right?
So there are council people that want to do away with arbitration, right?
This is my pledge.
Yeah.
I want to defend qualified immunity and protect officers from politically motivated prosecutions because I see it. I want to oppose civilian oversight that undermines law enforcement. Can't have people coming in and exerting their own agendas that are going to get in the way. I want to strengthen proactive policing strategies and build strong community police relations. Again, going back to how the police department is perceived by the community is very important. These safe officers, I love that idea.
Yeah,
really do. And I've met several of them, and people love them. They've gotten to know their community, and I think we need to up our game there.
Sure.
Strengthen officer morale and mental health support. We talked about officer morale, and it all starts with respect, with knowing that you're appreciated. Push back against policies that are soft on crime and weaken law enforcement. So we need stronger sentencing laws, like we talked about, and I will go up to Austin and help lobby for that. Improve officer retention and recruitment. We realize that we're having a difficult time bringing officers on. I don't want to lower standards. I think we need to maintain the highest standards possible. So whatever the root cause of our inability to recruit or to retain, we need to address it. And then the final one is stronger interagency law enforcement collaboration. We need to work with our state and federal law enforcement agencies. I've worked with DPS, closely with DPS for many, many years. DPS and the SAPD, and I don't know what the relationship is, but it needs to be an ideal relationship. It needs to be working hand in hand. Same thing with our FBI and our federal law enforcement officers. There needs to be full collaboration and cooperation because that's really the only way we're going to be able to eradicate this crime problem that we have, especially us being so close to the border. Federal law, plays a bigger hand here than in other parts of the country. So we got to be able to have those relationships. Now, we saw where VPS went into Austin a few years ago. Y'all remember? I don't know if that helps or hurts us. I don't know.
Well, that was because they weren't allowing the APD to do their jobs.
Well, we had that here too. We put together a task force, and it was very unusual, including DPS and Bexar County of all uniformed personnel. And then the new director of DPS was the Region 6, Ray Bad, right? Ray leader too, and easy to talk to. So yeah, he was I'm not sure what they called him, but he was over Region 6 here. And so assistant director, whatever it is, but he worked very hand in hand with us, a good man. So yeah, our relationship with him is good, and DPS is in really good hands with him. Yeah,
Let me tell you what, they're great folks, and we've got to make sure that there's collaboration wherever they can collaborate, and that's where I don't understand some of these limitations. But whatever it is, just like with our mayor and governor, you have to get along. Our SAPD and our state and federal, they have to get along, they have to work together. And maybe they do. I just want to make sure that as part of my commitment that we up our game there, whatever it is. There's always room for improvement.
Always.
So I want to be able to do that. So I'm making this pledge. It's from the heart. And look, it's pragmatic. And we could have talked about 30 other issues, but these are the issues I think are important.
Those all branch off to so many other things.
Yeah, and look, once we get it online, you'll see all the bullet points underneath, because I try to also identify the specific areas, like sentencing guidelines within that, So that's my commitment. And you know what? I can't wait to work with you all, and with SAPOA. I want to be supportive of their efforts and whatever it is that they're doing to fight for officers. I want to be there. And I will insert myself to the extent that I can, because I think as leader, a mayor should be involved. Even though we have a different type of government structure here, that doesn't preclude the mayor from getting involved in one of the most important things, which is public safety.
Yeah, and they carry a lot of weight. The mayor carries a lot of weight, right, with council. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my pledge, and I'm sticking to it. We need a safe and successful San County.
Well, we appreciate you coming in, both Willie and I. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to come spend it with us.
Is there anything else that you might want to mention that we didn't discuss that you had on your mind? That
my campaign team would not like it if I didn't say vote for Rolando. Mayor. But look, I think that in May 3rd, we're going to have a very important decision to make as citizens of San Antonio. Do we want more of the same, or do we want to move forward into a different direction that recognizes that harmony in this community is needed, and that we need to support the people who are protecting us every day?
I like that you mentioned about, and because I hate to be, well, Nico said tribal, because we're law enforcement, and so our focus is public safety. But I like the conversation of what you talked about with the business, and obviously how important it is with public safety, and those examples that you had with that. We live in this community. I don't live in San Antonio, but we're always here, so I do have family, friends. Obviously, we're concerned about our brothers and sisters of law enforcement and their well-being. We've lost friends in this job, and we do understand that's part of it. But I hope that, I have no doubt that what you wrote in there is not just talk. You put some thought into it, like this is what I want. And obviously it's important for what we just talked about and the mention of it. But we do appreciate everything, you coming on so soon. I don't know when this was going to happen, because
This is important to me.
Yeah, that you're a busy person and trusting us to get that word out, and obviously showcase yourself and your vision for the city and law enforcement. But we could have asked for anything, better with this interview. Yeah.
I had one more thing.
Yeah.
You got time? Just real quick. You and I had an offline conversation about a candidate, current city council member, a former city councilman, and then a candidate for mayor, doxing me, putting out your information online so everybody knew where you lived. I'm not going to say exactly what I said to you that day. I think I said it was a bitch move. No, I'll say it. Because at the end of the day, anybody that takes that is so far below the belt, and we've seen that happen before. We saw it in 2020 when the Bill Miller family was showing their support for then President Trump, who lost the election and then won this one. And it was one of the I forgot his name, Joaquin Castro, I think, then put his information.
Yeah, but
and for anyone to do that, it's just so far below the belt. It's just terrible in every way. to put someone's family at risk, to make them more comfortable, to make them afraid that some nutcase is going to come by your house.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, I'm sure if you get all at the substation, they'll be glad to do patrol buys for you.
That's a good idea. Look, so people understand what happened. We got our cars broken into. A very nice officer showed up quickly, calmed us down. I went on social media to talk about it. Not much after that, John Courage, who's our council person, goes on his social media and makes light and tries to diminish the fact that we had just been victimized at our homes in his district. He said that there's no crime in my gated community. That's, what he said. Very malicious.
That really has no.
It has no bearing, but yet we're his constituents. And then he publishes my address.
And he's on
published my address.
And that shows you a lot about what he thinks about his role as a councilman and as a candidate for mayor, about taking care of the people he should be serving.
Wow.
I'll get off my soapbox. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. We need a safe and successful San Antonio.
All right, thank you so much, sir.
You got it.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Yeah, of course. Thank you.